Anna once again drifted into sleep, but this time, there was no rest. Instead, she found herself in some sticky, viscous substance where she alternated between feeling hot and cold. It felt like she was swimming in a nightmare, her thoughts tangled like invisible chains, trying to break free from the slumber. Soon, her body felt heavy, as if she were sinking in thick syrup. Against this, a muffled noise kept seeping through from underwater, disrupting her focus and making everything even worse. Suddenly, she was doused with cold water. Not just any cold, but it felt as though someone had hooked her with a harpoon and yanked her up sharply. "Are you sleeping again?" came a gruff voice, tearing through her reality. Anna barely opened her eyes. Her mother-in-law, Margaret, stood above her, as disapproving as always. Her lips were tightly pressed together, her face scrunched in annoyance. Anna couldn't find the strength to argue. Her body was heavy, and her mind foggy from fever. "Get up," I said. Margaret shouted, hovering over her. "Guests will be here in an hour. You have to help me." Anna just shook her head and got up, trying to wipe her face with the blanket she had pulled over herself. She felt terrible, her head spinning, and her fever rising again. The thought of guests was the last thing on her mind. For the past 2 days, Anna had felt miserable. Every evening, her temperature spiked to 40. She was unable to even get out of bed, let alone prepare food. She could barely drink water, let alone eat. "Who are these guests, Mom?" Anna weakly asked, barely able to keep her eyes open. "What's this 39? Stop lying around. You're not dying. Get up and help out." Margaret snapped, not even bothering to consider that Anna might genuinely be sick. Margaret's voice was deafening. Anna just wanted to curl up and hide. But her mother-in-law kept pushing. Anna could never win with Margaret. She always found a way to make Anna feel like she wasn't doing enough, like she was lazy. Margaret had never understood why Anna worked from home. In her eyes, it wasn't a real job. It was just sitting around all day, pretending to work. Anna worked remotely as a freelance analyst, earning just as much as her husband, but to Margaret, it wasn't real work. "Why don't you get a proper office job?" Margaret would say. "You could be earning more, and your life would be much easier." No one respects people who work from home. They think it's just an excuse to sit around and do nothing. Anna couldn't understand why her mother-in-law couldn't respect her. She made a good living and kept their home running. But nothing was ever good enough for Margaret. A few days later, Anna's condition didn't improve. Every evening her temperature rose higher, and she felt weaker. Even when she tried to rest, Margaret kept pestering her, ignoring the fact that Anna couldn't even lift her head. "Are you going to sleep all day again?" Margaret barged in, scolding her. "You don't need to be laying around when we have guests coming over." Anna said nothing, her strength drained. She felt like a shadow of herself. The thought of arguing with Margaret seemed too exhausting, so she just let the words slide off her. That evening, when her husband, Luke, came home, he noticed the strange silence. He saw Anna on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, looking tired and drained. He immediately came over, sitting next to her. "What's wrong? You look awful," he said softly, taking her hand. But Anna's mind was somewhere else. The room felt suffocating, as if the walls were closing in. "I don't know what's happening to me, Luke," she said in a broken voice. "But your mom, she doesn't understand. She keeps pushing me. She doesn't care about how I feel. I'm not even sure she sees me as a person anymore." Luke was silent, his brow furrowing. He didn't know how to respond. His mother's opinion always weighed heavily on him, and Anna knew it. She knew he would never understand why she felt so suffocated by his mother. The days passed, and Anna's condition continued to deteriorate. Every day, she felt more drained, but Margaret's presence in the house only intensified. The more Anna struggled with her health, the more her mother-in-law seemed to overstep, ignoring any hint that Anna was struggling. The final straw came when Anna was sitting in the living room, wrapped in blankets, with a fever that refused to break. Margaret entered the room, as usual, with her usual tone of command. "Why are you lying around again?" Margaret scolded, standing in front of her. "Don't you have any sense of responsibility? You need to help me prepare for the guests." Anna, barely able to keep her eyes open, turned her head away. She was exhausted. Her body ached. Her throat felt like sandpaper, and all she wanted was peace. "Margaret, I told you I'm sick," Anna whispered, her voice weak. "I can't do this today." But Margaret wasn't listening. "Enough of the excuses," she snapped. You're not going to lie here all day while I do everything myself. Get up. Anna felt a sharp pang of frustration in her chest, but she had no strength left to argue. She wanted to scream, to demand that someone, anyone, see her for the person she was, not just a source of service to this household. Later that day, when Luke came home, Anna was still lying on the couch, feeling like a ghost in her own home. She didn't want to complain, but she couldn't bear the weight of the house's expectations anymore. Luke sat down beside her, and for the first time in days, Anna allowed herself to be vulnerable in front of him. Her eyes welled with tears, and she spoke in a trembling voice. Luke, I can't do this anymore. I'm not okay. I'm sick, but your mom, she doesn't care. She doesn't even see me as a person. Luke remained silent for a moment. He had heard his mother's criticism before, but Anna's words cut deeper than anything Margaret had ever said. He knew Anna was right, but he didn't know what to do. You know, she doesn't respect me, Luke. She doesn't care about my feelings. It's like I don't even exist to her, Anna continued, her voice cracking. Luke looked away, unable to meet her gaze. I know, he said quietly, but she's my mother, Anna. I don't know how to deal with this. I can't keep doing this, Anna replied, her eyes filled with frustration and sorrow. You have to make a choice. It's either me or her. I can't live in this kind of situation anymore. Luke's face paled as he realized the gravity of what Anna was saying. The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. That night, as Luke went to bed, Anna stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. Her body was tired, but her mind raced. She knew something had to change. She couldn't continue being trapped in this cycle, with no support from Luke and constant interference from Margaret. For the first time, she knew that it was up to her to make the next move. The next morning, Luke went off to work as usual, and Anna sat in the living room, feeling the weight of her decision pressing on her chest. She had spent years trying to hold everything together, trying to be the wife her husband wanted, trying to keep the peace. But the truth was, she was suffocating. Anna packed a small bag with her essentials, took a deep breath, and walked out the door. She didn't know exactly where she would go, but she knew she couldn't stay in this toxic environment any longer. She had to take control of her life. Later that evening, when Luke came home, he found a note on the kitchen counter. It was brief. I'm leaving. I need to find peace. Goodbye. Luke stood frozen, staring at the note in disbelief. His heart raced as he realized that Anna had left. He tried to call her, but the phone just rang. She had made up her mind. The days that followed were filled with tension. Luke spent the next few weeks trying to reach Anna, but she had already moved into a small apartment of her own. She had contacted a lawyer and was in the process of filing for divorce. She had made peace with her decision. Luke, on the other hand, was caught between guilt and anger. He didn't know who to blame for the breakdown of his marriage, his mother, himself, or Anna. The one thing he did know was that Anna had finally taken control of her life, and he wasn't sure if he could get it back. Margaret was furious when she found out. She called him repeatedly, but Luke didn't pick up the phone. He had to face the truth. His mother had manipulated him, and it had cost him his wife. Weeks went by, and life began to settle into a new, albeit uncomfortable, rhythm for Anna. She focused on herself for the first time in years. She found a small apartment in a quieter part of the city, far from the suffocating expectations of her former life. She filled her time with new hobbies, started yoga, and even joined a book club. She was rediscovering who she was before marriage, before the endless battles and the constant strain. But as she embraced her independence, Anna couldn't shake off the lingering sense of guilt. She had left her husband, her home, and her old life behind, but there were moments of doubt. She couldn't avoid the question that sometimes crept into her mind. Did she do the right thing? One night, while curled up with a book, Anna received a call from her lawyer. It was time to finalize the divorce papers. Anna, I know this is difficult, but you've made it this far, her lawyer said. It's the right step for you. You've been through a lot. Anna's fingers tightened around the phone as she looked at the empty space in her apartment. It wasn't the big house she had once dreamed of, but it was hers. The loneliness felt less suffocating now, more like a freedom she'd fought for. Part 7. Confrontation. Meanwhile, Luke was spiraling. He couldn't believe that his life had come to this. He hadn't seen Anna in weeks, and every attempt to contact her ended with a cold voicemail. He knew that he had failed her, but the weight of his failure was crushing. He found himself in front of his mother's house one evening, his heart racing. Margaret had called him several times, urging him to come over, saying that it was time to fix things. But when Luke arrived, he found that his mother had once again taken control of everything. She had already arranged for him to meet with a marriage counselor, something he hadn't agreed to, but now it seemed too late to back out. "Why didn't you stop her, Luke?" Margaret demanded as soon as he stepped inside. "She was never right for you. You can fix this if you just stop being so weak." Luke opened his mouth to respond, but the words didn't come. He knew she was wrong, but he also knew he wasn't ready to face the consequences of his actions. He had let his mother's influence overrule his judgment for too long. "I need to fix this myself, Mom," Luke said finally, looking away. "I have to talk to her. I have to face what I did." Margaret's face hardened, but she said nothing more. Luke turned on his heel, leaving the house behind. He had no idea how he was going to make things right, but he knew he had to try. A few days later, Anna was at work when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Luke. For a moment, she hesitated. She hadn't heard from him since she left, and though she was angry, she couldn't ignore the pain that his absence caused her. "Can we talk? Please," the message read. Anna's heart raced. She had been avoiding this moment for so long, but now it was here. She had to make a decision. Was she willing to let him back into her life? That evening, she met Luke at a small cafe they had once frequented. The place felt familiar, but Anna was different now. She wasn't the same person who had been swept up in the chaos of her marriage. She was stronger, more certain of who she was. Luke sat down across from her, looking like a man who had aged years in just a few weeks. "I'm sorry, Anna," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't realize how much I was hurting you until it was too late. I should have listened to you. I should have stood up for you." Anna took a deep breath. She had heard his apologies before. She knew he felt guilty, but guilt wasn't enough. It wasn't what she needed. "I'm not sure what you want me to say, Luke," she replied. "You had the chance to be there for me. You chose your mother over me, and you let her make decisions for us. I can't go back to that." Luke nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. "I understand. I don't expect you to take me back. I had to tell you how sorry I am." Anna sat back in her chair, looking at him for the first time in weeks. It was over. They were done, and that was the hardest thing to accept. But she also knew it was the best thing for her. "Goodbye, Luke," she said softly. "I hope you find what you're looking for. But I've already found mine." Months passed, and life began to feel lighter for Anna. The divorce was final, and she had moved on from the toxic patterns of her past. She wasn't looking for love or for validation from anyone. She was living for herself now, and that was enough. Anna had her own apartment, a job she loved, and a life she controlled. For the first time in years, she felt free. Free from the criticism, the constant pressure, and the weight of trying to please everyone around her. Luke, on the other hand, struggled to adjust. He still contacted Anna occasionally, trying to apologize, but she had learned that apologies weren't enough. She needed actions, not words. And the man who had walked out of her life would never be the one she could rely on again. If you liked the story, give it a like, subscribe, and share in the comments.